Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it's December 13th of 2022. We are under a tornado watch, I think it is. I can hear, I can hear thunder. It's 7:25 a.m. in the morning, and I, powered on my cell phone. I have a whole bunch of amateur radio apps on it. I have a whole bunch of weather apps on it, and I pay for several of the weather things. There was a thing that popped up right away that said NOAA, NOAA, Weather Radar Live. And I thought, well, that sounds good. The weather department, and so then I clicked, allow access, all that kind of stuff. And then it, pops up, starting today, a 3-day free trial. And then starting December 16th, today's the 13th, a $5 a month. And I don't mind, I'm already paying for weather. But I can't even go with this. This is Pixel, Android apps. And anyway, let's see what's going on over here. It's just showing about tornadoes. Oh, okay, here we are. I'm going to turn down. Radar watches and warning 7:15 a.m. It is 7:27 a.m. And right over Dallas, they don't even show Fort Worth, but it's Dallas, Fort Worth. For those of you outside the United States or something, they're separate cities, but right next to each other. But no, I started to say all my life, but well, yeah, sort of all my life. I was in civil defense when I was in high school. In the Ground Observer Corps, but that wasn't watching for tornadoes. That was watching for USSR bombers over Kansas City, Missouri. And I thought it was kind of, well, it wasn't funny, but I thought, I'm not sure there's much reason for me standing the post to, call in that there are Soviet bombers over, I think by that time it'd be too late, But then when I worked hospital security, now for my years of welding and that type of stuff and whatever, but when I started working hospital security for that 30 years, and that was one of the things that, hospital security officers did. In addition, you usually at all of the hospitals I worked at, except for one, security watched for, storms and that type of stuff. And then we, once a year, would go around to the various units. All the employees had to be, had to watch the video that we had, and that type of stuff. So, and, as so it's been I've never seen a tornado in real life. I've seen them, but I've never seen one. I've found the results of, of them after they've hit, but I've never been there. When I had my patrol service for about a year, there was a famous tornado that hit Kansas City, Missouri. And when I was, I think, in high school. And then later when I had that patrol service, that was the area that I decided, well, the area that I, South Kansas City or whatever. And a lot of this was many, many, many years later, and there were people who still lived in the Ruskin Heights area, and when the sirens would sound or whatever, they would come out, and they were looking at the sky. I patrolled in Ruskin Apartments or whatever. They had been hit by and then I had an encounter too at Ruskin Shopping, a real small shopping center, bigger than a strip mall, but So I've always sort of had an acquaintance with tornadoes, and I would just as soon skip. I'm 81. They can, I think we can just skip. I didn't get to be in one, and that would suit me just fine. I don't know if you can hear that thunder or not. I think my cell phone is, it is charged up. So if there's a bunch of lightning and that kind of stuff, I would like to have a cell phone that's I would like to have a cell phone that was waterproof. When I do go out with one of my cell, I only have one I have two that I've moved on from, and but I would like to have a cell phone that was, waterproof. I mean, I don't want to go I don't want to go underwater with it, but that I could take outside and not have to worry about running it. Although that would be an excuse to purchase a new one. Not that I can afford it, but of course, my ex-wife's, wheelchair bound, and everything. So she's afraid of storms, and I'm not really afraid of storms. But of course, I've seen videos and things of them, and I'm sure I would be, that would probably change my opinion if I were in one. Okay, this is going to be a short video, I believe, unless I start rambling. Today's the 13th, won't be long until Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and then New Year's. I think I told you, I'm sure I did, someplace on my videos I told you about, I was in high school, and my father, he never really taught me to drive. I mean, we had one car. No, my mother and father each had a car because they each worked and they had to go at different. Anyway, I think a couple times, my father said, we're going out to Swope Park, a big park out there. And we went out, and there was a whole bunch of places you could pull in, there was some tables or whatever, and kind of a big parking area. So we went out on a Sunday or something, when nobody was there. And then he had me get behind the wheel and then drive around, inside this inside the parking area. And he didn't have me go out and drive down a road or anything like that. So finally, when I went to get a driver's license the first time, I made it down to the end of the block. And that was it. Took me back, and then the next time I came out, I think I made it down to about the end of the block, maybe, and that was it. And then I was lucky the third time and passed. My father didn't really, a whole bunch of stuff that he didn't do. That's what I was going to tell you. So anyway, This is sort of a test. It's not going to be very long. The last couple of videos have been, maybe the last three, a little bit, well, one more than the other, you know, and the audio and the video not in sync. I thought that I might know what the cause, and I may have mentioned them in a video or whatever. I'm doing this. All my videos I've been doing it like 60 frames a second. This one is 30 frames a second. Maybe that will solve the problem. Let me tell you about someplace, like I've made so many videos that someplace there's this story, but let me tell you again. It's not long. Anyway, both my parents were, you know, drinkers. And, you know, I was home alone, but that was okay. I was in high school. And they went to a party over at a friend. My dad was a Boilermaker, and this guy that he worked with, a Boilermaker, there was a party at this guy's house. My parents went there. And of course, when I was little, my parents would take me, which they're not supposed to do. I was taken as a little kid to, you know, into the bar, and once a beer bottle or something went flying by my head. Somebody threw one at somebody else and flying by my head. Then there was times when I guess they were enforcing the thing about, you know, no kids, and so I was left in the car outside. When I was young, kid, I used to get a lot of nosebleeds or whatever, so one time I was out there at night in the car, and my nose started bleeding, and I'm not sure now, I can't remember if he was a butcher or maybe a bakery or something, but he saw, I guess, and he came out, you know, with his white thing on, and had, you know, I held something that he gave me to my nose or whatever. When I became a Boy Scout, and I didn't actually become a Boy Scout, I quit. My mother bought uniform, the whole thing, and I didn't stick around long enough to, anyway, I told my parents, especially my mother, I'm not going to the bars anymore. I'm a Boy Scout. I can't be going to a bar, you know. But anyway, they went to this party, and now I had driven very little. I did have a license, but, you know, my dad didn't say, hey, you know, why don't you take the car, you know. Anyway, probably my mother, you know, she called over, and there's a girl here that's, you know, your age. Why don't you come over? And I said, okay, I'll be right over. So I went over, and she was my age, I'm guessing, I don't know, 16, 17. I don't think she was that, well, she didn't look 18. I mean, she looked, you know. And then she decided she was, the guy who was having the party, the Boilermaker, a friend of my dad, he was a guy, by the way, that a couple of drinks, and he was, a couple of beers, and he had no tolerance for it. But anyway, she wanted to go home, and she lived over in Kansas City, Kansas. And of course, we lived in Kansas City, Missouri, and the party was in Kansas City, Missouri. And so I volunteered to take her, and of course my dad had been drinking and everything. He said, sure, you know, you can take her, you can take the car, you know. So I went out on my adventure. You know, I had just gotten my high school class ring, so that probably would have been, I think he got me, maybe I was 18, 17, I don't know, can't remember. But I'm not sure when you got, maybe you got in the junior year, can't remember. So I drove. Oh, by the way, that's what it was. Okay, it was. Um, New Year's Eve. That was it. And back then, more so back then than now, on New Year's Eve, everybody was out and everybody was drunk and everybody was driving. Too bad I didn't have, a digital phone or something like that, because now you wouldn't believe. I mean, especially, anyway, I'm taking her over to Kansas City, Kansas, and then when we get over to her neighborhood or whatever, she says, "Park up the street. Don't park in front of the place." I parked up the street, and then we started kissing, and we didn't fuck or anything, but we started kissing and petting and that type of stuff, and then, "Oh, is that your And she took the class ring off, whatever. Then she put it on her finger, and I thought I was in love. I was, I guess, for a few minutes or whatever. And then she said she had to go, and she left with my class ring. And so then getting back to Kansas City, Missouri, it was like interstate thing. So I go up onto the interstate. I get up there at a toll booth or whatever, and I pay the toll. And then I start driving, and I keep driving, and I end up coming around to the same toll booth again. And I said, I don't think they made me pay again, I don't think. Maybe they did, I don't know. I would have paid. And I said, I'm trying to get to Kansas City. Well, just, blah, blah. The guy told me, and I go up, I come around to the same toll booth again. And I don't think he made me pay that time. I'm up on it and driving. I thought, God damn, But in Kansas City, Missouri, KCMO television had, in almost downtown Kansas City, had this tall antenna that went up in the air. You could see it from all, had lights on it, of course, so airplanes didn't crash into it. You could see it from all over Kansas City. So I just kept driving towards, heading in that, that direction, heading that direction. But I came out on the plaza, a place of expensive businesses, and at Christmas time they went major, on lighting and that kind of, and decorations or whatever. And they were still up because it was, I think they were still up with the lights and stuff. But I came down into the plaza area, and then I knew, I'd be able to get, Kansas City, Missouri, their street numbering thing was pretty much a good system, you know what I mean? And so then I knew it, but I really wish, that I had, that would be the, people were vomiting out the windows of their cars. Everybody was drunk but me. And so I made it home, minus my class ring. De La Salle Military Academy, class of 59. 1959, not 1859, by the way. And then the next day or whatever, my father informed me, because he'd been informed by his friend, that that girl that I took home, that we parked up, that should have been assigned to me, didn't, I was so dumb. I went to Catholic schools all my life. That she was married and had a baby, the girl that I took home, and that she was 16 or something like that. And that her husband found, I think that her husband had found my class ring. She put it in her jewelry box. She had a bunch of other boys' class rings. and that he was looking for me to kill me or something. And but anyway, the guy that did the party is a friend of my dad, and whatever, he said, told my dad, don't worry, we're going to get that class, we're going to get the class ring back from her. And maybe the husband didn't know about the class ring. Maybe he was just looking out the door and saw a car park up the street, I forget the details, a long time ago. But I still thought I was in love. I was kind of moping around. I wasn't concerned about my class ring until when I found out that she was married and had a baby, But anyway, I got my class ring back. But I wish that, we'd had digital phones and stuff like that. Of course, I'd have probably had a crash if I was trying to take people, But that would be something. You talk about, drunk driving, and we've come a long, long way. Because then everybody was drunk, at least in the plaza area, everybody was drunk and driving crazy and vomiting out their windows and everything else. So there has been progress made in that area. We haven't had any progress in politics, but in drunk driving. Anyway, this is, it's about almost 22 minutes. I hope doing this thing at 30 frames a second works. I may go stick my head out the door and with my cell phone, and if there's something going on that I can see. It's still dark. I think 7:47 a.m. in the morning. Anyway, thank you very much. Cross your fingers. Thank you very much for watching.